Hi there, it's Jared Hamilton with the Hamilton Group at Cherry Creek Mortgage. Welcome to another edition of Java with Jared. First of all, I do want to apologize. It's been a couple of weeks since you have last received this. I apologize. I was out of town for a couple of Fridays. But we're back, and I want to let you know what's going on with interest rates. And as you know, interest rates have been fantastic, and they're just phenomenal. We're setting what appears to be new records almost every day in terms of the bond market lows, and the lower the yield, the better interest rates are. And every day we're setting low yields, and that's making interest rates just fantastic. There's nothing that really seems to indicate that we're going to see this trend reverse itself. It's hard to imagine that interest rates can get any better, but some experts believe that there's maybe room for things to improve a little bit. Don't know if that'll happen, but they're great right now. Anytime you can get a 30-year fixed rate on the conforming side below 4%, no one ever expected that, and we're in the mid-threes, so that's pretty amazing. And there's nothing that seems to indicate that interest rates are going to rise anytime soon, because what we're seeing is a pretty slow national economy. Things are just really showing some signs of actually deteriorating in terms of economic conditions. It's hard to believe that, here in Denver, it doesn't seem like we're experiencing the same problems that we are from a national perspective, especially when it comes to the housing market. That is pretty robust here. But from a national perspective, there are some believe that we could be seeing the signs of potentially another recession, because from a global perspective, we see all the problems in Europe. That is really on the forefront. China is showing some signs of slowing. So from an overall global perspective, we're seeing tremendous weakness, and then that equates to the possibility of a weak national economy, and that makes interest rates really, really great. So good news for the housing industry is that interest rates are fantastic. Now, what we saw happen last week in terms of economic data, we saw the Consumer Price Index come out. That's a measure of wholesale or measure of inflation at the consumer level. The overall rate was 0, and that shows no inflation. And the core rate, which excludes food and energy, that showed an increase of 0.2%, which is very minimal. So that was good for interest rates. We also saw housing starts come in at levels slightly above expectations. They came in at about 760,000. Expectations were for about 745,000. And then existing home sales, those came in at about 4.37 million, which was a little bit lower than the expectations of 4.65 million. But the major thing that the market was watching last week was testimony from Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke. He spoke before the Senate and Congress. And when that happens, all eyes are focused on him and what he says. And the market was trying to anticipate if there would be any talks of another round of quantitative easing, QE3. And the Federal Reserve, or Ben Bernanke, did not indicate that there's any plans for that to begin happening. The market was expecting, because of the economic weakness, that maybe he would hint of, or actually flat out say, another round of quantitative easing. Now, we're going to see the elections happen in November, and most economists, or most people following the market, believe that if the Federal Reserve was going to do anything, they would need to be doing it in August, at the very latest September, because they don't want the Federal Reserve, or the Federal Reserve doesn't want to be perceived as being a political entity. So if another round of quantitative easing was going to happen, it was expected that he would hint of it at this meeting, and that didn't happen. So the bond market improved, and the reason that the bond market improved and interest rates got a little bit better on that news is that the Federal Reserve might be saying that we're going to leave the economy to its own devices until after the election, and because there's weakness and there's not going to be inflation, that caused interest rates to continue to get better. If the market perceives that quantitative easing is going to happen, more than likely what we will see happen, because this has been the history, is that actually interest rates suffer a bit, because that will cause the economy to improve, more possibility for inflation, and that hurts interest rates. So if there is no quantitative easing going to be happening right away, we might, see interest rates continue to improve. So that's what happened last week. Another interesting development that I just want to at least let you know that we're probably going to see happening is that the Federal Reserve has some power over the economy, or to try to get things to improve with the economy by monetary policy. And the Federal Reserve, I think we're going to see what's going to happen is a little bit of a standoff between the Federal Reserve and Congress, because the Congress can affect economic conditions by some of the things that it does, and then the Fed has control over monetary policy. And what the Federal Reserve has said is that they really want to see more structural reform done by Congress, i.e., get spending under control with entitlements, Social Security, and Medicare before they're going to make much more of an effort to improve the economy from monetary policy. Now, the pattern has been is that Congress has just left the economic conditions up to the Federal Reserve by easing monetary. They want policy. They want the Federal Reserve to print more money. Well, the Federal Reserve says, we've done all that we can do right now. There needs to be structural reform, because anything that we do could actually cause things to get worse in the overall perspective. So until there's structural reform, we may not want to tweak monetary policy. And who knows if Congress is really going to make that structural reform, and that's what the Federal Reserve, it's a little bit of, could be a poker game that's happening right now between the Federal Reserve and Congress about who's going to move first. And so we'll see if that really develops. So next week, the big economic data that we're going to be seeing is we're going to see gross domestic product, GDP, come out at the end of the week. There's also consumer sentiment, and if it shows that the consumers' tolerance for the economy is weakening, then that could also improve interest rates. But the big news is what's going to be happening in Europe. We're going to see a meeting happen in Greece between the IMF and also the European Central Bank and the European Commission, and they're going to be evaluating whether or not Greece will be able to live up to the conditions imposed by the IMF. And if they say no, then that looks like the default for Greece might happen in September, and things could come to a head. So be watching for that. That could really affect interest rates. So that's what's happening with interest rates. Again, everything's really looking great in terms of low interest rates. And I do want to say a special prayer for all those that were affected in Aurora with the shooting. So sad to see that happen anywhere, especially here in Colorado. And our thoughts and prayers are with the families and the victims. So I hope you have a wonderful week. And if you have any questions, please give us a call. Thanks so much for watching Java with Jared, and have a wonderful week. Thanks. Bye-bye.